Hey everybody, my name is Steven and I am the host of the Going Somewhere podcast. And before we jump into today's episode, I want to thank you for watching today. If you haven't already, please subscribe so you can stay up to date with every new episode and leave some comments. Let us know what your big takeaways are and how this podcast is impacting you. Without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to our wonderful host, Steven. Hey everybody, welcome to this week's episode of the Going Somewhere podcast. Today I'm joined by my friend Katie Anderson. What's up, Katie?
Hi, doing pretty good.
Welcome. I'm pumped for you to be on. It's kind of funny. I put out a post a while ago saying, who do you want on the podcast? I think 3 or 4 people said, I want Katie Anderson. And so here you are.
Yes.
People are going to be excited.
I feel it's an honor.
It's an honor. It's an honor. Well, no, I am excited to jump into the episode. I know your life and just your story and the season that you're in is something that I think a lot of people will resonate to. So do you just want to talk a little bit about who you are, your family, and kind of what you're doing right now?
Yeah. So I have my husband, John. We've been married almost 10 years. And then my son, Bryn, who's 5. And then my son, Zane, who's 3. And they keep me very busy, and we have a lot of fun, though. And we live in Fargo. My husband's a mechanic, and so our cars are always working.
Tip-top shape.
And I don't know. I'm going to homeschool my boys, so I'm very excited about that. I have a teaching degree, and so I think that helps me have more confidence in jumping into that. And I get all nerdy as I look at curriculums and...
See, I would get nervous.
Yeah,
like if I'm looking at like curriculums and I'm the one responsible for making my child like educated, this is not for me.
Well, John,
so I applaud you.
He's like, I'm not, I don't even know. You're in charge of that. I don't even care what you do. I'm like, okay.
See, I would be like, gym? Yeah, I can teach gym. Not a lot of other things. See, John could do like home ec. Yeah. Or not home ec. Not home ec. Shop class.
He could, though, because he loves to. He's the baker.
He's the pretzel guy.
He's the brawn for cooking in the house. I'm the brains. And so
there you go.
We love to cook.
So you just like stand behind him and be like, a little bit more salt.
Salt. He's telling me more salt.
Okay.
He's always like, watch where you're going, Katie. I have a knife. I'm like, oh, sorry. And then
That's amazing.
And then he's taught Bryn so well. I'm like... Usually during the day when I'm cooking stuff for them, I'm like, Bryn, does this need more salt? And I give him a taste. He's like, yep. Or if I'm browning butter to make cookies, I'm like, is this how Daddy does it? Yeah, but you need more brown in there, Mom. I'm like, okay.
That's amazing.
So John's taught him well.
I don't trust my children with those things, my kids, but if I ask Summit a question, like there's no way I'm trusting the next thing that comes out about like life things. He's an honest kid, but when it comes to like how to cook, no chance. But no, your boys are so sweet, and we've gotten to know them for a long time, and so it's fun. You guys were just over recently, and all 4 of the kids were up on top of the couch, like the ledge of the window, and then Summit wanted to be like the big kids and jumped and did like a sweet somersault.
Yeah, we were all like, held our breath.
That's like when you hang with the big kids, you never know what happens. But no, I've been excited to just kind of chat with you. I think, you're somebody that my wife will look up to a lot and I look up to a lot. But I know my wife's been in and out of seasons of really her focus being, she worked full time when we were first married. And then we had Kinsley and she went part-time. And then we moved to New Jersey and she was full-time at home. And then we came back and she's kind of worked more and so I think just throughout those seasons you're somebody that we've seen from far and from close as somebody. I know you're not going to say like, yeah, I've perfected it, I am the best and this is, but we've just seen and we've just said we want to emulate our family, our life, and the way that you treat your kids and after Katie, so
praise God.
To God be the glory.
It's true.
So do you just want to tell me like what kind of brought you to this place in this season of life? Was this this was the plan? John was going to do this. I was going to stay at home, raise kids, homeschool. Was that kind of the plan?
That was the plan.
Okay.
I always wanted to stay at home, but I thought we would be in the country. I thought he would be farming, and that just didn't work. We had this big dream, our whole relationship, like we want to be in the country. John wants to farm, and it just wasn't what we expected. So it was really,
Did you have a season on the farm?
yes.
Okay.
Like we were long distance marriage for like probably 9 months while I worked, lived
Which
my
everybody
dream.
recommends.
Yeah.
Long distance marriage.
Yeah. I wanted to keep working at the church in Grand Forks, and he farmed, and he kept thinking like, oh, as soon as Katie comes back, this will work. But I came back, didn't work. And then we had our first son while living with my parents, and we kept thinking, it'll get better after we have a baby. It'll get better after we clear out this old house that we're renovating. And it never did. We kept believing the lie that it's going to be better. Greener pastures are better. And it was a super lonely season because we were outside of community and we just didn't have friends in the country. And so it was really hard, like swallowing our pride and being like, this is not working out here. We need friends. We need to be closer to our church. And so then we moved to Fargo, but I was still super lonely. And John started getting more involved at church at the time. And I just didn't have close friends like I had in college. And it was really lonely. And I remember coming to a worship night at church and just feeling like, at this time, Bryn was 1.5 years, and I was really struggling with the fact that, like, this work seems pointless, and like, I'm just changing his diapers. I'm just feeding him lunch. Like, he can't talk to me. It just felt pointless. And I wanted to do something for the kingdom. I wanted to have an audience. I wanted somebody to say, like, you're doing a good job, but I didn't have community. I didn't have friends. And so I remember coming to this worship night feeling like I don't have anything to give. I just felt so ashamed. And I remember being up at the altar, and I don't even remember the song, but just like feeling like I needed to surrender to the Lord again, but I had no idea like what. And I just felt embarrassed because I'm like, God, all I have is my life, like, and I'm not doing anything with it. And he's like, no, Katie, like, that's what I want is your life right now. And it was just like, oh, okay, wow. Okay. And so at that point, I didn't know what that looked like though. And so it was, I think, starting to like draw closer to him with my words, or with his word, and like really listening to worship music more intentionally. And I started reading a book that changed my life called Unseen by Sarah Haggerty. And it was pretty much everything I had been feeling. Like, the world wants to be noticed, but I felt super hidden because John was using his gifts and doing things at church, and he had a really amazing job, and I just felt so hidden away. And that book opened my eyes to the idea that God sees everything you do, and he's aware of what you do, and that place is sacred and special. And to live your life before the audience of one. And I was just like, okay, this is seriously all I have. Like, I don't have deep friends. So I just was like, this is all I have. So I just started to like really press into him and like call upon him in the middle of the day and acknowledge that he sees me when I'm folding laundry, and when I'm getting my kids another drink of water, and when I'm changing a diaper, and when I'm picking up toys. Like, everything I do is an act of worship to him. Every single thing. And like, no task is ordinary when it's done for the master. My mom had that on her sink growing up, and I was like, that's
the lamest sign
I was
ever.
like, that's just cheesy, Mom. Like, but I read it as a mom. I was like, that's like real.
Yeah.
And like, God does see everything you do, and it all becomes sacred when it's before his eyes. And that is what changed everything for me as a mom.
That's amazing. What going back a little bit, like when you and John were, in that season of like, you should be at the farm, it's going to be great. Like, life is awesome. And it wasn't. And what were those conversations like for you guys? Like,
Yeah.
I know for us, like when we were thinking about moving originally and stuff, it was like, we just stopped having conversations at a point because we were always going to have the same points and we just needed to pray and stuff. But what was that like for you guys?
Yeah, I remember John, like I was, I think, trying to ignore the fact that like I didn't have friends, and I was trying to think like, oh, it's going to be better. And John was kind of hiding this reality, like, I know that we have to move because this isn't working. And so I remember right after Bryn was born, he was just like, I'm never going to see my son because I'm always working and I never get to see you. And I just remember a couple nights, like he would get home at 10:30 and we'd be sitting in our bed and we would have these long conversations about how this isn't working. And it was just kind of like, it just kind of felt embarrassing because anybody that knew us was like, this is what we talked about from day one. The moment we started dating, it was like, yeah, we're going to go farm and I'm going to homeschool.
It was like a romantic, like end to your story.
And it was hard to imagine that God was like, why would we have wasted this time like being here? Like it was just really hard to wrap our minds around that. And it did just feel like really embarrassing. But I knew that we both like needed community and we needed something different. And I think we just had to open up our hands and trust the Lord that like his ways are better than ours. And I remember our pastor in Grand Forks talked about how ministry, like our ministry to the Lord and our worship to him, it's like he's at the top, and then it's our family at the next middle pyramid, and then like our world or our church, and then our world. And it was like, obviously we're giving all that we can to the Lord, but we couldn't be the family we wanted to be. And I think that was really sobering. Like we had different ideas about how our family were to look. And then we looked at our church, like what was, like we were driving into Northview at the time, like an hour away. We weren't involved in anything. We were just attending. So that, like, we didn't really have friends there. And so it was just like humbling and sobering, realizing like this is actually not what we had thought we wanted.
Right.
And so it was hard to like tell everybody that we're moving and we're leaving, and I don't know.
That's something that, Taylor, we were talking one time and this is when we were in New Jersey, and I've talked about it before, but like my experience in New Jersey was like healing, and I had kind of I was on track for like burnout, and I didn't realize it at the time. So having 2 years where we were kind of like hidden away, and then COVID happened, like I was reading books and I was like growing, and it was incredible. But for Taylor, it was very lonely and it was isolating and really difficult. She missed obviously people. Like I missed my friends, but I also was grateful for like space in my mind. But I needed them still. But for Taylor, it was just like there was a huge gap. And then I remember one day, husbands are the worst at encouraging wives sometimes, but I said like, this was your dream. Because I told her like, this was your dream. Like you wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. That's what you told me when we were dating, and she just looked at me and she said, dreams change. And I think that's like real. The irony of that too, of like when we were dating, I also was like, we're going to be in Fargo forever, Chi Alpha forever. And then we moved across the country. Yeah. And, it was almost like I was acknowledging like, yeah, my dreams can change, but yours have to stay the same. And I just think whether married or not, like acknowledging that fact that like sometimes God gives dreams for a season, and the reason it feels like it's forever is because he wants us to live like that. Like he doesn't want us to like live as if, all right, I know this part of my life is going to be done in 2 years, so I don't need to invest in it.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes he gives us what feels like a lifelong dream. That's a short-term thing because he wants us to live that way. But at the end of a dream, it feels like a death. Like it feels like something is dying. You know, do you guys ever, you had mentioned it, but you know, you said, why would we waste our time? Do you feel like that season on the farm and that season was a waste of time, or what have you learned from that season in hindsight?
I think we both learned so much. I learned that like I need community and I need people around me, and I need people in the same exact season. Like there was a woman who invited me to her small group in like the town that we lived in, and it was all women who were like 10 or 15 years older than me, but I was just like so grateful.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize like I needed a new mom to be with me. And I needed a mom who, because I had my son was like Bryn was almost a year when we moved back to Fargo, but that whole year I didn't have a single mom friend who had an infant, you know, a 6-month-old. And that was like, I was questioning everything I was doing. I was reading too much on the internet, you know, about what I should be doing, what should my son be doing, and how should I be a parent, and just like looking for the world to tell me I'm doing a good job, when all reality, I just needed like the Lord to be like, you're doing a good job. And the mom gut, like the feeling that you have as you're raising your kids is real. Like, trust that. I've given you my Holy Spirit to guide you. And so, but I did miss like a friend to be like, yeah, that's normal that your kid is crying all the time. And that's normal that he hates food right now. And, you know, it's normal that he wants to eat all the time. And so I did miss that. So moving to Fargo, we both had just a longing for friendship. And so I was really thankful for your guys' small group at the time, because I was like, we just needed people to like just be together and to know we're not alone.
I think sometimes, like, obviously small groups are a huge part of my life. But I think there's times where I am thinking about it and I'm like, I don't really need, like, I have these close friends, but then it's stories like yours that just like, we need to create spaces for people, because we don't always know where people are at. And the end result is always me going, like, I don't know if I've ever walked away and like, oh, it was just a waste of time. No, it's like, I feel encouraged and I'm pumped about it, and just realize how important it is to me every time, every week, or whatever the case is. But I know it's like things like that as a church, I think we can say, like, there's times where I think can kind of turn inwardly. That's our natural. We go like, in this season I'm busy, or I have this or that. But I think we can look around us too and go, who are the people that truly desperately are craving this thing that I'm taking for granted? You know, I think it's a big deal. One of the questions that I was talking to somebody and they said, you should ask this: what does a day in the life of Katie, what does the day in the life for you as a stay-at-home mom look like? I think there's some people that are like, okay, so this is one of my pet peeves, and I've probably been guilty of it, but saying the words just a stay-at-home mom, like, we get validity in what we do, you know. I think you were talking about it too. And so we ask them, like, what do you do for a living? Either they'll say like, I'm just a stay-at-home mom, or somebody will answer like, oh, she's just a stay-at-home mom. Yeah. I hate that.
I know.
But
I used to say that myself, and then I had to catch myself saying like, no, I get to stay at home with my kids.
Yeah.
Like, it's such a privilege to
for
be there.
Sure.
And
So what does that day look like for you?
Yeah,
does an alarm go off, or not?
They
a human alarm.
They hop in our bed
Okay.
in the middle of the night usually, and then in the morning when they're waking and stirring, like I'm like, okay, the day's beginning, because they move around and their eyes like peek open and they pop right up in their little smiles and they play. Sometimes, I usually am tidying up in the morning as they're playing upstairs. And then we all come down and have breakfast. And usually that's very basic, because it's the morning. So it's usually toast or Rice Krispies. And then, then I have my quiet time and they have to just play. And
how long did that take to establish? And like, has that always been the case where you've kind of been able to, because that was another question I got, was like, what does your time with Jesus look like in the season?
That is a whole nother topic, but it has taken a long time to get to where it is now. Like, I used to have to do it during naps, and sometimes that would be very, very short. Me reading the Bible and journaling is like what my heart wants to do. And so, but I don't know when I started doing it when they were awake, but it usually is like I read my verse of the day, I write it down, and then I respond to it in my heart as it relates to what's going on. But usually I'm stopped every like 3 or 5 minutes having to like repair something they've broke, or I need to stop an argument, or they're jumping off the couch and I'm concerned for their welfare, that they won't like break a bone. Like the other day I was like, today I just don't even care what they're doing. I was just journaling, and they all of a sudden had turned our open floor. They covered it with all the couch cushions and pillows, and we're like underneath each other, like jumping on it. And I was like, well, nobody's crying, so it's fine.
We're good.
But then they started pretending it was a swimming pool and like twisting and jumping. I was like, that has to stop.
Head first diving. Yeah.
And so usually it lasts maybe an hour, but that's because I'm stopping and going constantly. But like God is, when my heart is expectant to hear from the Lord, like he responds and he's faithful. So the season of young kids and maybe not always having a quiet time, like I knew that if I'm having a hard time or I'm frustrated or angry or hurt, like I can turn away from what's going on in my life and like look and gaze at the Lord and communicate with him and bring him into the conversation. And he is faithful to respond and to remind me of something in the Bible or just a feeling of peace. But like he wanted my daily conversation, and that has taken time to develop too. And that I think is where I have to cling to that, because my quiet time isn't always guaranteed.
Yeah.
So.
No, that's cool. I mean, I think it's one of those things that takes shape. I think the reason people want to ask that question is because I think sometimes it's like what it used to be, it can't be, you know?
Yeah, it's true.
And that's even for a dad. Like, you know, I mean, I can get up an hour extra earlier because I remember, so there's one time I made the commitment. I was like, I'm going to start getting up an hour earlier than normal. And then Kinsley started getting up like 45 minutes earlier than normal. I was like, ah.
That is how it works, though. Like, there was a season where I only did it after everyone was sleeping, because that was the only guaranteed time that everyone would be quiet and I'd have peace. And sometimes, like, I used to roll my eyes at like the YouVersion Bible app Bible studies, because I'm like, those are so cheesy. But for a season in my life, and they're still like really powerful, but that was all that I had the capacity to do.
Right.
And I had to open up my heart and like trust that God is going to use like whatever he wants to communicate to you and to connect with you through his word. And so I was like, well, I guess I'll pull up my Bible app and read my daily thing. And
well, and like you said, like your verse of the day, and I had a friend actually, because I was struggling, and I was just like asking him, I was a new dad, this is when Kinsley was born, and he's like, what's your goal? And I was like, I've never really thought of that. And he's like, isn't it just to like connect with Jesus and just to be close with him? Then stop putting all these rules on it, you know? And so then I just started, that's what he said. He said, I took the YouVersion, the verse of the day that's on the YouVersion app, and then I would just think about it, journal about it. Yeah. And maybe I would do more, but that was, if I did that and it just got me in that place where I was like seeking Jesus, like that was the end goal. Yeah. And I think sometimes it's that expectations of like, well, no, it's supposed to look like this, you know? But I think there's so many things that you said, though, one of them being the fact that you prioritize it even when it's so difficult. And I've tried to do it. Like when I'm at home, I've had the opportunity to stay at home different days throughout the last few years, and it's hard, but the fact that it has remained like a staple for you, like it's because we need it, it's because it's something that you're creating the space for, which is really cool,
Yeah, it is hard to do, but
yeah.
I heard on a different podcast that I actually a long time ago listened to.
I wasn't going to rat you out. This is a first-time guest, first-time listener of the Going Somewhere podcast. She said she's going to go and watch them and listen to them.
I will. I have time in the nighttime, so that's what I'm going to do. But Risen Motherhood, great resource for moms. Long time ago on their podcast, she was talking about the time that you spend with the Lord and the challenge that it is. But it's always going to be a challenge in any season. So she was like, just do the hard thing and it's worth it. Like every time it's worth it. And never in my life have I ever felt that the word of God is like food to me as a mom. Like it satisfies my need for everything in my life.
Yeah.
And so
that's amazing. So what are some of the other things that your day entails? So and then we can move on. Yeah.
No, that's good.
I had a big interruption there.
No, it's okay. After my quiet time, then usually we will either run an errand, because then I have lots of energy and ambition, or we'll go to a park. This last week I've been pounding out some zucchini bread because I brought home 4 huge zucchinis. I should have brought you one. I should have brought you one.
Missed opportunity.
But I've been making zucchini bread.
You know where we live.
And then we have lunchtime, which usually is leftovers or macaroni and cheese.
Staple.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Another mom friend was like, sometimes it's okay if they just have cereal. And I'm like, yes, that is okay.
I love that. Yeah.
So then we have lunch, and then we have rest time. My boys, I don't really like nap time because my boys never took long naps. So when Zane stopped napping at 2, I was like, praise the Lord, because it just, a lot of moms love naps. I just didn't. It was more work for me. So we have rest time. So
I'm a
it's
big
like,
nap fan, but yeah, okay.
We sit down and watch TV, and I'm not ashamed. We watch it for maybe 45 minutes or an hour. We usually watch like Dude Perfect or
love it. Yeah.
Some other funny YouTube thing. And then we'll get up, and usually I will have done, after that, I will sometimes do homeschool, or we'll go outside again. Or like today we played with Connects, and that keeps them pretty occupied. And I get really into it. Like if the Legos come out, that's like the best day. I love
Lego
Legos.
Day.
Then I get so lost.
Mom, I don't want to play Legos today. No, we're playing Legos.
Because I get so lost in what I'm building, and they're like totally, I'm done with that, Mom. Yeah. And then John comes home because he leaves for work at 7, comes back at 3.
So you do wake up, breakfast, all that stuff,
yes,
right? Yeah.
And that's kind of how it's always been, which I don't mind. And then we usually just play as a family, or we'll go on another errand and then cook together. We've had to remember that the boys like helping us in the kitchen, so that's
Bryn's knife safety and all that,
he teaches me. He's like, Mom, that's not how you're supposed to hold a knife.
Like that.
I'm like, oh, you're right.
That's awesome. No, I think everybody like maybe has a picture, even if they're in that season, of like what this should look like. Because I think it's so easy to get caught in like I could be better, and that's any basketball player, somebody that's no matter what you're doing. And I think it's the same or even heightened, because I know for us, like it's so easy to see like what the parenting tips are of the day and like what's on TikTok and like what the new movements are. But I think you said it earlier of just like trusting the Holy Spirit that he's going to lead you. Not that those things are bad, but I think what our home takes shape of also comes at like, what's your goal, and I know I'm putting you on the spot, but like if you were to have a goal for your home and a goal for like your season as a mom and raising kids, right now, like what would you say that is? Like at the end of the day, if this happens, we did it.
If I'd have done my devotions and I've done the dishes, I feel happy as a mom. If my boys, I think when I want to just play and savor them as much as possible. And if I rush around too much, like I'm missing it. Because at least I have read so many things about like, oh, I wasted so much time cleaning and doing XYZ. And I realize like we have responsibilities to like, keep our home. But it takes walking and being yoked with Jesus to learn like what is urgent and what's important and what can be like left for another day. And I feel like I learned that anew in each season as my boys grow and change. But I really want them to remember like a mom that laughed and played and wasn't too concerned with the other things.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I love that. What's a way that you feel really supported by friends in this season, whether they have kids or not?
I think when a mom or somebody reaches out to you, either just saying, I'm praying for you, I'm thinking about you, is like...
I wish somebody could think for me sometimes.
I know. Some days.
Think for me. I don't want to do it.
But yeah, there's been instances where I'm like, oh, this is such a hard day because they're not listening, or I'm angry, or I don't feel well, or my house is a disaster. But out of left field, God nudges somebody to text you. It's just like, oh, that's another reminder to me that God sees that I need his eyes, and I need just a friend saying, I'm praying for you, I'm thinking of you. Or also, like, I've had a friend, like, my boys are sick, this is like a terrible day, and she calls me. She's like, are you okay? Like, do you need anything? Let's pray. And I'm like, oh, that is like how I want to be. And I've tried to emulate that. Like, do you need anything? Dropping off, like, food. Like, this same friend will bring by like little things. Like when we're sick, she'll like play ding dong ditch, knock on our door, and like run away.
That's
and
amazing.
I'm like, no, stay. But like, don't, because I don't want you to get sick. But
it's stay if you want to.
I think just like people reaching out, because it's easy to feel like nobody sees you.
Yeah.
And yeah.
How do you feel like the church as a whole like can support stay-at-home moms, people that are doing that, and stay-at-home dads? I think that don't overlook them either. Like stay-at-home parents are just incredible people. But
they are.
How do you feel like the church can support you?
I think the church I think small groups, having a place where you can go and be with other parents. But I also love like that parents have a chance to go hear a message and like enter into worship with the Lord. Because I know that's like vital to like soak in the word and be in community as you're listening to like somebody share the word and be in worship. Like that is so life-giving in itself. And so to have like the children's ministry to like love on your kids, and then parents can get filled and encouraged. And and I think even just like a simple hi makes a difference. Smile as you're walking away from each other. Right.
I think it's so important. I think that, it can be even just the way that you think of church sometimes, like when even as a pastor, like you just think of things of like, okay, we're thinking of all these different career paths, but it's like, when does the event end? Like when does, are we going to provide food at this time when parents need to feed children? And like, I just think it's sometimes even those like holistic things as a church to like keep in mind those different scenarios. Like, I think it's so easy sometimes. Like, most people can be there at this time, but that's when kids eat, or like that. I know that's been the case for us at different things or different. It's like, wait, there's no food there. Like, what am I supposed to do now?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I just think it's those little things that we can do to, support as well. But, I feel like one of the things that I always tell people, and it's because I had this experience, otherwise I probably wouldn't say it, but Taylor, right before we moved back from New Jersey, she went on like a year-long planned, or it wasn't a year-long, the trip, but the trip was planned for a year to go to Alaska to see her best friend Aaron. And so I had like a full week of being a stay-at-home dad. And I always tell dads, like, if you can do it, take like 2 or 3 days and send your wife away. One, it's really fun. But also, I feel like just to have I came back, obviously I was thankful for my wife. Like I saw what she was doing, but I saw it in a clearer way of like all the things that she does. Like, it's just the little things. It's like the moment that you get one down from a nap and you're like, all right, I'm going to relax. And one wakes up crying, or like,
Yes.
something happens, or you look over and the kitchen is stacked with the dishes and you're like, that's just going to stress me out later if I have another meal that adds to that. So it's just those little things that I remember that week, just like being so aware of just how grateful I was for Taylor. And so if you can do it, do it. But I think just if you're not in a season of parenting right now, like what's something that you wish you could share with somebody that maybe isn't in that place, that maybe is listening, going like, all right, this is back pocket material, but like, what are the things that you feel like they can be doing now? Not even if they maybe don't have parenting in their future, maybe they see themselves as a career parent, which is great too, but like, what's something that you would say to them?
I think God, like what you do, whatever it is for the Lord, like it's significant, and no task that you do is like too small. Whether you're making coffee or typing or sending an email, like changing something on an engine or teaching a kid or whatever you're doing, I think in your career, like I've learned that nothing is insignificant for the Lord. And I think for any person who's maybe feeling like they're not noticed, like you're noticed by the King and the Creator, the one who sits on the throne. Like he sees you and pays attention to you and loves you with his whole heart. And he's like worth it to follow. He's worth doing all the boring things. He's worth laying down your dreams for. Like his plans are always better than yours, and his dreams are way beyond anything you could imagine.
That's amazing. What's something that you want to say specifically to that person that is maybe is discouraged, is lonely, is feeling, like I am in this place, I don't get recognized, or, what would you say to that person? Maybe the person that you were on the farm.
Yeah, I think to wait on the Lord and to put to practice, like reading the word and dwelling on it. And I think I rushed by like so much of that and kept wishing for the other stuff. And I just wish I would have like wasted my days thinking about him and how he helps and how he wants to be with you, and how, I think I spent too much time wanting something else and missing the fact that he's with me in this moment now. And like, he wants to teach me in this moment and wants to be in communication with me. And,
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I love that. I just think, like, obviously I'm very grateful that you came on, and like just the path that you're on and the example you are, but also just, it's not less than, like, it is so significant. And like, you're changing the diapers of world changers, and you're making mac and cheese for putting it in the mouth of somebody that's going to speak life into somebody else. Like,
it's true.
I think you just do such a good job of and I'm sure it's not 24/7. Like, that's why you're spending time with Jesus. But like, you do such a good job of, and it's so evident in the way that you parent, the way that you live your life, that like you don't see it as insignificant. And I just love that your story is taking you from that place of feeling that way, and then God revealing something to you. And then I know you are a part of a mom's group that creates a space for moms to be together and to hang out and to remind them that they're seen. So I just appreciate that not only are you doing it, but you're creating it for other people. And, I just think your story is really incredible. And no matter where we find ourselves, like if we find ourselves in a stay-at-home parent, time, or if that's our goal, or if that's where we end up someday, but also just like our everyday life, like finding and embracing the ordinary things, like allowing everything we do to be worship. So many times, and you're on the worship team, like you sing, but also like you're a worshiper the way that you live your life. And that's what we're called to do. Yeah. And so I think there's just so many things that we can walk away from this conversation, no matter where we're at, no matter what we do. If we have somebody in our life that's at home, like let's take time to encourage them. Let's take time, not just today, but every time we think of them, to reach out to them, remind them that they're loved. And I know you have just such value in your life, and we appreciate you. Our family does. But one last question, I always ask it. What advice would you give to 22-year-old Katie? Pre-mom, pre-farm, or were you on the farm? You might have been.
I was on the, no.
What advice would you give?
What advice would I give? Probably, God knows what he's doing, and he doesn't waste a single thing. Like whatever is going on, he wants your heart in the middle of it, and he'll do whatever he can to like get your attention, get your gaze, get your heart, because he wants our love. Like that's just what he wants. And so it took really wild things for me to finally give him my heart and my love in a new way, the way that he always wanted. And
love it. Thanks so much, Katie. No, that was so good. Thanks for being on the podcast, and I can't wait for you to listen.
I can't wait either.
To audio. No, I'm just kidding. But thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We just appreciate you, and we'll see you next week. Thanks, Katie.
Yeah, you're welcome.
See you again. You made it to the end of an episode. Why not start another one? There's more just like it on the Going Somewhere podcast YouTube channel. Click one of the videos that you see right now to get all the latest, and there's a button in the middle. Click it to subscribe. We'll see you next time. Stay up to date on everything Going Somewhere podcast. We love you.